Hey guys, and welcome to episode 12. Welcome to my last video in Brazil. If you're watching this, then I'm actually already back in Europe, in the cold. In this video, it's going to be my Brazil roundup. I'm going to cover hotels, hostels, food and drink, prices, money, safety, the people, and I'm going to cover some negatives and also all of my highlights from Brazil. So stay tuned and I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So let's talk about transport. If there's one thing you need to know about Brazil, it is the fact that it is huge. So big, in fact, it's nearly the same size as the whole of Europe. With that in mind, it takes time to get places. You can get buses between the cities, but they take a long time. For example, from Curitiba to Foz do Iguaçu took me 12 hours. If you want to take a bus from Curitiba to Sao Paulo, it will take you 11 hours. It will take you 12 hours to Rio. There's not been too much traffic on the road, to be honest, and these journeys will cost you around 40 euros for a trip. The next option you have is to fly from city to city. There are flights with Latam, Azul and Gol. I've flown with all three of these. They've all been really good airlines, all the planes have been on time, and you can get flights from as little as 20 to 30 euros, so it can actually save you money and time to take a flight. Obviously you do have to check in and stuff, but if you do leave it to last minute though, for example the other day I saw a flight from Foz do Iguaçu to Sao Paulo for 300 euros, so you do kind of have to plan. The other option you have as well is to rent a car. The prices are not too bad, but I don't have too much advice on this. And in the cities themselves, in Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, they both have metro systems. They're really good. They can be from like €1 a journey. I was surprised how modern they were, and the trains are really often, so yeah, they were cool. And finally, taxis. I've used taxis in Sao Paulo and in Rio. I've used metered taxis, which are a little bit more pricey, but I haven't had any problems with them at all. And then of course you've got apps such as Uber, which I do like to use just because you know exactly the price you're going to pay and they're a lot cheaper. I took one, for example, in Rio, just 10-minute trip, and it cost me like €2.50. Here in Sao Paulo, I took one trip from the airport to my hotel, which took 25 minutes and it cost around €7.50. So yeah, Uber's super cheap. When it comes to hotels and hostels, there are endless amounts in Brazil, especially in cities like Rio de Janeiro. I mainly book using booking.com. I'm really super happy with the platform, and yeah, I like as well if something goes wrong that you can contact them and they try to help you. Normally when I travel I stay in hostels, and that was my plan this time round. However, it didn't work out that way. I stayed in one hostel in Rio and one in Foz do Iguaçu. Both of them looked pretty okay when it came to the app, but when I arrived I feel like the standard is a lot lower than that of hostels in Asia, for example. You pay around €10 a night for a dorm room, which is pretty decent, but the one in Rio especially, the room was so small for 6 people. So I ended up changing to a hotel. I've stayed in 2 4-star hotels and 1 free, and the most I've spent is €35 for a night. In Sao Paulo, the 4-star hotel including breakfast is just €22 a night. So you can really get good deals, especially last minute. And if there's 2 of you traveling, then it's going to work out better than staying in a hotel for sure. In general, everyone that I've come across has been super friendly, smiley, and happy. I've not had bad customer service anywhere I've been in the 5 weeks I've been here. One thing I will say is that English isn't that well spoken. Even in areas like Rio de Janeiro's Copacabana beach, I've come across language barriers. So it's always good to bear in mind that, and to know little bits of the local language if you can, even thank you, goodbye, hello. One thing as well is that a lot of people here actually do speak Spanish, or if they don't speak it, they can understand it. So a few times I've managed to use Spanish as a middle ground. It's always handy as well if you've got Wi-Fi, you've got a translator on your phone, so it's really good to communicate with. Safety in Brazil, I can honestly say that most of the time I've been here, I haven't felt unsafe. In Rio de Janeiro, when I first arrived, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know how I feel about walking around and stuff, but I felt fine nearly all of the time. To be honest, I didn't go out that much at night, but during the daytime I felt completely fine. I chose not to go out at night, mainly because the bars and stuff were busy and I knew that COVID was a real problem. So I spent most of the evenings in my hotel room. One thing I was told was to, if you do go out at night, not to walk down an empty road. Always try and be around people. And I always made sure, for example, that some of my money was separated from my bank card, from my phone, so that if I did come across a situation, then hopefully I would be left with something. I would say that in Sao Paulo, I feel a bit more unsafe, but at the same time, I haven't really felt the time when I've been like, oh, okay, I need to get out of here. So yeah, in general, I think it's been better. It's been a lot better than I thought it would be. I make sure that I don't really use my phone in public. That's one thing as well I was told. When I try and shoot some videos or take some pictures, I'm trying to be as quick as I can. And again, I don't do it if I'm just walking down the side of the street. So it's just about using common sense really, but that's the same in any big city around the world. Okay, let's talk food and drink. When I came to Brazil, I already had an idea that the menus were going to be very meat heavy, and I'm right. Brazilians love their meat. They also love carbs. With every meal, you seem to get rice and chips or rice and mash. Yeah, so it's very, very heavy meals. I've eaten out a fair few times. The prices are really good. For lunchtime especially, you can get like a fast food plate, normally featuring meat, rice, beans, chips, some kind of vegetable, and it will cost you around €4.50, so it's very reasonable. I'm craving a good salad. I'm craving some vegetables, but the menus in general don't tend to go that way. So yeah, let's see. I've not been blown away by the food, if I'm really honest. It's been good, but yeah, I feel like it's all a bit samey. There's rice and beans everywhere. Maybe I've just not come across the right place. I don't know. When it comes to drink, the alcohol prices are really reasonable. You can get a beer for around €1. You can get a caipirinha for €1.50. Yeah, so it's really good. And supermarket prices are also really cheap. Things like fruit are really cheap in a supermarket. And again, alcohol in a supermarket, like you can pick up a can of beer for like 30 cents. You can get some places a bottle of wine for around €3, but most of the time it's a bit more, €5-6. And when it comes to soft drinks, water's really cheap. You can get a 1.5 litre bottle for like 30-40 cents, a can of Coke for like the same kind of price. You can get a pack of cheese for around €1. So yeah, in general, food prices are really good in Brazil. And the supermarkets are big, they're well laid out, there's loads of products. So yeah, you definitely won't starve on this trip. Okay, next let's talk about money. As I mentioned before, the Brazilian real works out roughly 6 to €1. Cash is accepted basically everywhere. I did take some from the airport in Lisbon before I started my trip. But you can also withdraw cash from the ATMs here. But bear in mind that some of them won't work with your card. I've had to mainly use the ones that work 24 hours. When you do withdraw cash, there is a charge, and it's around €6. So it works out better to withdraw as much cash as you can at once. Credit card and debit cards are accepted nearly everywhere. I've been using mine all of the time in the supermarkets. One thing that's a bit confusing is I've been using a debit card, but on the machines, they actually have to use credit. because they will always give you an option whether it's credit or debit, and for some reason my debit works as a credit. I don't know. And yeah, that's it really. This next section, I want to talk about the negatives of traveling and also about COVID. When I post online and when I post videos, I really want to try and keep positive and excited about traveling. I want to inspire people to travel. But at the moment, especially during the pandemic, it really has its challenges and it can be mentally draining. Some people thought I was crazy when I booked to come to Brazil, and I even have my doubts myself. But in general, the trip's been amazing. I've seen some sights that I will never forget. But COVID does play on your mind. I haven't been sleeping too well, to be honest, ever since I arrived in Brazil. You really think about the fact that the hospitals are virtually full, that the virus is everywhere. And in Brazil, social distancing doesn't really exist that much, to be honest. Everyone's wearing masks, using hand gels, there's temperature checks. But in general, it's always in the back of your mind. So it has put a bit of a downer on the trip. But like I said, I've had an amazing time. One thing you have to really think about when you're traveling at the moment as well is that countries can change their restrictions overnight. There's a big chance you can lose money, you can get cancelled flights, and yeah, it's stressful. It adds anxiety that you just don't want on a trip. Recently, actually, just now, I've had to cancel the end of my trip. I was due to go to Chile, but they added a 10-day mandatory quarantine period, which is just not feasible because I was only going to be there for 12 days. So by that happening, I've lost out on 4 flights and it's cost me around 400 euros. It's frustrating, but it's life. So what can you do? I'm planning to spend the last 4 days of my trip in Rio, a city that I absolutely loved. So I'm excited to get back there. And I really hope that the sun's going to shine for me. Yeah, I don't know what the future's going to bring right now. If I'm going to travel again anytime soon. It's like I said, it's a minefield right now to look at restrictions. If you need a COVID test, that's another thing as well. In Brazil, I've really struggled to get hold of a COVID test. I've been in 4 different clinics and they all said I need a Brazilian national health number, which I don't have. So yeah. I booked my flight home, actually back to the UK. So when I get there, I will get a COVID test and then I will make it back to Spain. So yeah, sorry to be negative in a video, but I also want this travel accounts to be real. So yeah, but now moving on to the last section of the video, I'm going to dive into my highlights of my trip to Brazil. Moving on to the last section of this video, my top 5 highlights from my trip here to Brazil. Coming in at number 5 is the boat trip in Parachi. I had an amazing last day there. The weather was beautiful, blue sky, got to swim in the sea, and then on the way back to the harbour I saw dolphins. Really incredible day.
There's no time to waste, no time to spend, unless you're in my arm. There's no time to rest, no.
Number 4 has to be the Sugarloaf Mountain in Rio de Janeiro. Really cool journey up in the cable car. I was lucky that there weren't many tourists around. There's a lot of nature, got to see little monkeys, and the view from the top is absolutely phenomenal. You can see all the way down to Copacabana Beach. Yeah, it's just postcard perfect. It's a view you won't forget. Number 3 is the Christ of the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro. This is a day that I will never forget. Like, going up to see the statue and it was completely covered by cloud. I was like, I'm not even going to see this thing. And then a gust of wind appeared and I saw everything. It was just, yeah, what a moment. One of my top 10 travel moments, probably. And coming in at number 2 has to be hang gliding in Rio de Janeiro. Such adrenaline, running off the top of that cliff and just soaring like a bird all the way down to the beach. Yeah, it was really a surreal experience. If you go to Rio de Janeiro, don't chicken out. You have to go and do it. Really, really cool. And finally, in at number 1 has to be the Ikson Falls. They were literally incredible. Unless you go there for yourself, you will not understand the sheer size of them. The noise that they make, just wow. Such a cool view. Probably one of the top 5 views I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, please, 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 if you go to Brazil, do not miss out. That brings us to the end of this video, and it brings us to the end of my trip to Brazil. I hope you've enjoyed following my journey. I've had an amazing time and I cannot wait to keep exploring the world. But like I said already, I'm going to wait for a little bit until this whole situation calms down. Let's hope the vaccines get distributed. Let's hope that the virus eases off, and let's hope that we can all travel a free world again soon. Thank you. Take care.